Hey leaders, what happens when a system-level team listens closely to schools and then redesigns supports to better serve students and staff through collaboration? In this episode of Leading Collaborative Response, we explore how intentional structures and shared ownership can transform service delivery across a division. Are you a leader who is navigating the nuances of leading collaborative response in your school or district? Are you unsure of what collaborative response is? Are you looking to understand the critical role leadership plays when establishing and refining a collaborative response approach?
Collaborative response began as a grassroots approach to focus on the needs of students through a framework of collaboration. That approach has grown to a movement that is training leadership and education.
Through the Leading Collaborative Response podcast, Kurtis and I share our own experiences of leading collaborative response and lessons learned as we continue to learn and gain insight through the experiences of working alongside others. We also have the opportunity to engage in conversations with school and divisional leaders implementing the framework in their own organizations.
We know great leaders build great teams because that is what every child deserves. Subscribe to the Leading Collaborative Response podcast and join the thousands of schools seeing success for students through intentional and focused collaborative efforts. Before we jump into the episode, remember to join our mailing list at jlinsiders.com. Every Saturday, we send out an exclusive video only to our mailing list, along with other templates, resources, videos, and more. We also share upcoming events and opportunities you may not hear about anywhere else. Go to jlinsiders.com to become part of the JL Insider community.
Welcome to another episode of Leading Collaborative Response. As always, I'm Lorna Hewson, co-founder and lead learner of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Kurtis Hewson. Today, we're joined by our friends Kari and Corey Kropp, Assistant Directors of Supports for Students with Elk Island Public Schools. Kari brings over 2 decades of experience in EIPS, having served as a teacher, assistant principal, and system leader, with a deep commitment to ensuring every student is known, supported, and surrounded by a team. Corey also brings more than 20 years in K-12 education with experience as classroom teacher, school counselor, school-based administrator, and system leader, grounded in strengths-based, student-centered approaches.
In this conversation, we'll explore how Kari and Corey have used collaborative response structures and processes to reshape service delivery, model collaboration at the system level, and support multidisciplinary teams across the division, particularly through intentional use of collaborative time. So let's jump in.
So Corey, Kari, so great to have you join us today. Thank you for taking the time out for this conversation.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's good to
So
see
we
you.
were joking before we started that, Corey, this is your first podcast, but Kari, you're like our seasoned vet on this. We don't have any badge or prize yet, but this is your 3rd time sharing. But the interesting thing,
Old hat.
yeah. The interesting thing, and we'll link the previous episodes in the show notes, is you've come on and talked from a school principal lens, and then you've talked to us about leading divisional approach for Wednesday early dismissal time, what that looked like. And now today we're going to kind of move to a further extension of that. So really excited to see how that's grown. So before we jump into some background and where we're going to go with this, we've been trying to ask for guests to give us a 1-minute freebie. Basically something for anyone listening that could be a takeaway right in the very first minute. So if you could just share something with our listeners that could be an immediate takeaway to support their collaborative response work, what would it be? And then we're going to dig into it as we get later into the conversation.
Go ahead. Well, one thing I think that's really important I think we've both realized for our journey is we talk a lot with our team, especially this year, about failing forward and just jumping in, doing the work, and then just kind of reevaluating where we're at, flexible, make changes if you needed, but just, being vulnerable and showing that we're going to do this work because we know it's best for students, and that sometimes we need to just pause and make changes, and sometimes we'll keep going forward.
Yeah, I love that. And that idea of being able to fail forward, that you just get going and get trying things, understanding that some things are going to work and some things maybe not so great, but that flexibility is important.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I think it's so critical to the process too, to understand that everything we introduce is not going to be perfect at the onset. So try it. If it doesn't work, we're going to adjust. We're going to tweak. We call this our ready, fire, aim approach.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so before we jump in, share with us, what would someone listening or watching this need to know about Elk Island Public Schools? Give us a bit of a rundown of your school and the division.
Well, I think what makes us unique here at Elk Island Public Schools is that we're a rural and an urban setting. So we serve schools within an urban center and then on the eastern edge. And then we also have many specialized system programs and inclusion on top of all the students that we support. So our kids could be at many different levels at different sites and require different levels of support from our school team.
And so it's basically east and north of Edmonton in the Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan area. But then if you extend it outside of the city, about how far out would it go in some of your more rural locations?
All the way to
Mundare be the furthest?
All the way to Vegreville, all the way to Mundare, and then kind of up around, we scoop in Lamont and Bruderheim as well, plus rural Strathcona County, all the way east.
Ardrossan and Fultonville that way.
Yeah. And about how many students then overall?
We have just over 17,000 students in our school.
Okay, so can you walk us through, and you talked about this in some of the pre-notes that we had added, about how feedback from your schools prompted a shift in your service delivery model and why collaborative response became an organizing framework for that. So kind of launch us into where this started, and I know there's going to be a connection to this newly introduced early dismissal Wednesday that's come system-wide as well.
I'm excited to hear more about this because the service delivery has such impact in schools, and I know lots of schools work hard to try to figure this out.
Yeah. So Corey started in the position about 6 months before I did, and then last year was our first full year working together in our roles. And every year we have our schools fill out like a central office feedback survey. And so when the results of that survey came back in, Corey and I worked with our team of feeder school consultants to just look through that feedback and analyze it. And we walked through an activity where we did some reflection on what's the work that we're currently doing in our schools. And then we also reflected on what are we seeing as our biggest key issues that are happening in our schools. So when we're going from school to school, what are the common themes and trends of what schools are experiencing? And then we took also the feedback from the survey and just did an activity to sort of connect, what's the work we're doing, and then also maybe look at what work should we really lead into that would have our most impact on our school. And from there, we started to just, we took that feedback from our consultants and did a bit of brainstorming and just re-envisioned how our service model could shift and change to best support schools. And what we were hearing from schools primarily was they wanted our teams to be in schools for longer series of time. So if they were struggling with a particular student or if they were struggling with a particular key issue, they had the desire to have our teams, instead of just, coming to their school once a month or twice a month, they wanted them in for sort of a series of days to kind of dig in a bit more, do some coaching and modeling and support that way. And
just to interrupt there, what would be some of the roles within that service delivery team?
Yeah, so we have our feeder school consultants who each have a region of our division that they support. And so they meet with their school teams monthly. And then within those teams, we also have our OTs. Each of our schools has an OT and an SLP assigned to a school.
Right.
So our feeder school consultants are the main point of contact. But if they go into a school for a visit and they're noticing that, maybe there's some OT related concerns or some speech, then they would draw in sort of that multidisciplinary team to support them.
Yeah, I think the biggest shift in our model is that it's purposeful. And it's more integrated. Our partnerships within our own team is more integrated.
Yeah.
So how we work with schools is we have a referral that are going out to schools that has a whole bunch of criteria and questions for the school community to answer. And then that helps us best provide the service that the schools are asking for. So it seems more purposeful and directed and efficient almost.
It sounds really responsive to what the schools are wanting, not just, hey, remember, we're coming out on January 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And typically that day we'll get called out and we go that day, and the student, maybe in particular that we're observing, has a great day. And so then it's hard for us to support. And I also think, one of the things that had to come with that was really looking at our team's calendars and schedules and how we're sort of managing that time and utilizing that time, because each of our consultants has about 9 schools. 9 to 10 schools. So they're still supporting a significant amount of schools. So I think the biggest challenge that we knew would be sort of a dynamic to work through this year would be, how do we best organize their calendars so that they're also being equitable with their responses.
So I was just thinking that as you were doing that feedback survey that you gathered from the schools, and of course the schools were sharing with you what they wanted or what they hoped to achieve through your service providers, but how was that received by your service providers? So there's 2 perspectives in trying to navigate this service, right?
So this fall, what we did to sort of roll out our service model, because we spent some time with our team before summer broke last spring, just coming up with some templates and processes and structures and a bit of a flow chart of how this would all work. So then this fall, Corey and I, alongside our feeder school consultants, we went and met with every school team in September to just meet face to face, explain the changes in our service delivery model, and just set the year up for success. So far, we've had sort of from kind of informal feedback. We've had positive feedback from schools, but we do plan on collecting more formal data, in the new year once the survey comes out again.
And from the feedback we collected, we've already made changes to our referral process. So we talk about that failing.
Good.
We see gaps and we see maybe some misalignments, and we think about how we can do things better. And then we make adjustments to our referral form as we go so that we're better serving the needs of schools.
Yeah, we've already made a few adjustments as the year has gone on.
Oh, that's awesome. And there's such alignment in being able to do that, right? Gathering the feedback and then exploring what those steps look like, and then making adjustments as you go.
And I think that also strengthens relationships between our teams and school teams, because we're being responsive to what they're asking for us to bring into their schools to better support them.
So I know this is a little bit interesting and unique, because both of you as school administrators were working through collaborative response structures and processes within your own schools at the time, and really trying to envision how do we create these collaborative response systems to be able to respond to the needs of students that are coming up. I would love to hear, how have you integrated some of that understanding of the structures and processes at the school level that you worked hard to implement? How has that informed how you're operating from a systems perspective?
I think a lot of it is similar yet different, because you're kind of just tweaking it to look from a division level. I think that part of the power of the collaborative response structures and processes is that it provides that consistent, clear approach, so that schools know that if whatever school they are in the division, regardless who their feeder school consultant is, regardless who their assistant director is, they're going to receive that same process, that same level of service that they would receive regardless. And I think that's what I found in a school setting. We had those same consistent, predictable processes and structures.
Yeah.
That gives people a sense of calm because they know what to expect. And then I also think from our way to manage the workflow, we don't feel like we're drinking from the fire hose every day. We know that, you know, if it's a TCSB, like that's what we call our referral firm, we know that it's a student that requires that extended level of support, as opposed to the, hey, can you just get eyes on this student really quick?
Well, and if you don't have structures and processes established, your phone just doesn't stop ringing,
it's
right?
Ringing all the time.
We have this kid, help. We have this kid, help.
And I think from a systems perspective, I think both Kari and I really prioritize building capacity.
Absolutely.
Not just about working with that one kiddo, it's how can we build the capacity of our schools and the people working to support students, so that when moving forward is kind of that ripple effect. And I think that's why I saw it important from the previous school that I supported, and that's why we brought it forward to our division level, because we saw the potential for it to impact more students.
And I think the last thing is that it's more of a, like, the way that we're structuring ourselves right now is a more of a proactive way to manage than reactive, because that's what, if we're always just waiting for there to be a crisis situation and then our teams come in, I mean, that's not productive use of anybody's time. So we're trying to be really proactive and then build that capacity in our school teams across the division.
Yeah, and to that point, when there is that tippy top behavior, that crisis response is required, we all have the same narrative. We all have the same shared understanding of the context and what those schools need. We're not working in isolation anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what the beauty of having those really defined structures and processes allow you to be more proactive, as opposed to just, you know, in the moment, like Kurtis said, answering the phone and just responding in that way that we know is not efficient, and it's not supportive of what's happening in schools either. So
it's not equitable too, right?
No.
Like if one school is calling you 20 times a week and another school it's once every 2 weeks, I don't know if that's indicative of the needs necessarily in each of those two locations.
Well, and being proactive, you have that opportunity to know fully what's happening in every school too. So,
when we get those referrals, we sit down with our consultants and we kind of prioritize so that we make sure that we're spreading ourselves out to the schools that we're supporting. And like to Kurtis's point, we're not just supporting 1 or 2 schools, we're supporting many more schools with this model.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. So earlier you had made reference to that early out collaborative Wednesdays. How has that dedicated time supported your alignment between your schools, your supports for students, supports for schools, and of course your system priorities?
And maybe give just a little bit of background for anyone listening to this of Early Out Wednesday. What are you talking about?
So our superintendent's daughter last year worked really hard with the board to introduce Early Out Wednesday calendar, which we were so excited about, because just from being in a school perspective lens, we were working hard to set up those structures and processes within a school, but we were really having to get creative with money and with time and with timetables and all the things. And we were doing the best we can, but to actually have that dedicated time every week to do this work is such a gift. And I'm just really excited to see where our division will go with this. So how we've done it though with our SFS.
So sorry, before you jump there, Kari, it's every Wednesday for about how long?
For 1 hour.
1 hour at the end of the day on Wednesday. So it means students leave an hour earlier. And that was the board conversation of how do we get support within our communities to be able to do this. But then I know that we've spent a lot of time working with, you have an hour now every week. How do you utilize that?
So we did work really hard with our leadership groups last year, and Kurtis, you were with us a lot, and we appreciate that. Just coming up with those schedules. I also believe that part of the success of the Collaborative Wednesdays was it was a collaborative, once the Early Out Wednesdays were approved by the board, Sandra worked really hard with the committee to create some structures and processes with a group of principals. So we co-wrote the admin procedure for that. And we also created some of the templates like collaboratively as a team. So it was definitely something that we did together with our admin teams. And then for our Wednesdays as a supports for students team, we are working within our department. So every Wednesday for that hour early out, we have our team together. So we have our feeder school consultants, our instructional supports consultants, our SLPs, our OTs, and our whole SFS team together.
About how many people would that be?
In the 60s.
Yeah, there's about 60
Yeah,
of us.
okay.
So we're doing that work where we have the first Wednesday of every month is a whole team department meeting, like a whole SFS staff meeting. And then the next few Wednesdays, we do our own collaborative team meetings. And we're also doing collaborative planning within our teams. So, and that's been a journey because we've had to shift and pivot. We've, especially with this fall being kind of the way it was. It's not typical fall. We're definitely still getting our feet underneath us with the work, but that's been really exciting as well. Just to create like those really strong team cultures within our department, which we haven't had that opportunity before.
And Kari, maybe speak to the session we ran last Wednesday about kind of that criteria and guidelines for collaborative planning.
Yeah, so last week we did an activity. We're just still working out. I know collaborative planning is such a journey to just ensure everybody's on the same page about what is collaborative planning, how do we do collaborative planning.
We'll be right back to continue this episode.
The key to a comprehensive collaborative response in schools is understanding that layers of teams need to be established in order to best support each and every learner, as well as the staff working diligently for their success. In order to coordinate and optimize support beyond the classroom, the school support team is critical. However, how that team is organized matters. Join us for the online workshop, Ensuring Effective Response Beyond the Classroom, 5 Considerations for Effective School Support Team Meetings, part of our Supporting Collaborative Response series. In this workshop, I will reveal 5 considerations for every school trying to take their school support teams to the next level. I'll also be sharing numerous resources, templates, and samples to help transform the supports put in place beyond the classroom.
Access this on-demand workshop and you'll have the ability to view and replay all or any portion of the workshop when it best fits your time.
Register today to learn more about this critical collaborative structure, integral within a school's collaborative response.
And now back to our conversation.
So last week as a team, we met and we talked a little bit about the 6 key components of collaborative planning. So we and then we put up some vertical surfaces around the room and we just had our teams work in small groups to write on the vertical surfaces that if that's one of the key considerations. So for example, if data is a key consideration for collaborative planning, what does that look like? And then also as a team, what would be our guidelines surrounding that? So we went through each of those 6 key considerations and had them right on the vertical surfaces. And then our director and assistant director team took all of those vertical surfaces and we created a visual for our teams of what is collaborative planning time.
Co-created. And this goes right to where you started with us of failing forward, that idea of we're going to start collaborative planning and we're going to build our understanding as we go, but we're not going to take 10 months for a small committee to figure out perfectly what it looks like. We're going to co-create it as we move. And the interesting thing is, I'm sure somebody listening to this, by the time they listen to it, you might have tweaked your process more by the time it actually gets released.
Every week, probably.
Possibly. It's funny, like collaborative team meetings, I think they're a little, not easier, but they're more structured and there's a bit more of a flow and a process. Whereas collaborative planning time, and it's kind of back to, and Kurtis, you've talked about this, about how making the mistake before of thinking we don't need to do norms, like we're a group of professionals, like, and then the same with collaborative planning, where it's like we're a group of really highly skilled people. We don't need to have a discussion on what collaborative planning time is. We all know what it is, and then you quickly realize, like, oh, maybe we don't, so maybe we do.
Or maybe we just don't have the same shared understanding of what it should look. We all have different ideas.
Our visual didn't pair with our actual visual. So I think it's just that journey along the way, and sort of pausing and reflecting and kind of what can we do next, just to ensure that we're all on the same page. We all have a shared.
And it's nice that our team accepts that this is the process. So we're like, they're on board with us. They recognize that there's a chance that Corey and Kari will switch things up, and that's okay. They go with the flow and they support it.
Oh, that's so good. And being explicit that might happen right from the onset is a really good thing, because it allows you for that flexibility. And, you know, we might make some decisions about the direction we go as going forward, but that's great.
Okay. So for someone who's in a similar role listening to this and are really intrigued with this breakdown right now, what would a collaborative team meeting Wednesday look like? How does that get set up for a room of 60 people? Like, give us some of the nitty-gritty logistics of what that's looking like right now.
Well, we've shifted that again.
We have. I was just laughing at Corey, because we've shifted that. So what we've done is we've taken our group of 60 and we've divided us into 4 groups.
Okay. And are they role dependent or mixed role?
Mixed roles.
Okay.
So each of our groups, so how we've organized them is by like our we sort of have 4 geographical feeder groups based on sort of we call them our feeder school groups, but it's based on sort of geographically throughout our division.
Okay.
And so in each of our groups, you would have a variety of people from each role. So you would have a feeder school consultant from specialized supports, you would have an instructional supports consultant, an SLP OT, and then other various, because obviously with 60 divided by 4, there's many people in a group. Basically, when we do our meetings, we divide up into those 4 groups, and then between our director and assistant director team, there's always one of us facilitating each meeting.
Okay.
And then we have our roles. So we have our timers, and we have our note takers, and then we have our interrupter. So we have a couple roles within our teams. We were doing originally collaborative team meetings, as we've done in the past in schools, but I don't know if you want to speak about our switch.
So just recently we've switched it up, and our focus in our team is really that partnership with instructional supports, and how can we best support schools with not just our specialized support, but how can we bring the IS side into supporting us? So we've kind of changed up the template, and we give each person 2 minutes to share after celebrations, kind of the work they're doing at the schools to support students. And that our hope is from that we can see connections, and we're maybe not duplicating services, but we can see where we fit into support that school from a different perspective. Maybe we didn't know an IS person was supporting a classroom, and then we hear that we're doing the same thing. So it's kind of that collaboration between groups, and then that maybe increasing communication between.
Okay, before you go to the next spot, then let's just back up for a second. When you said we start with celebrations, what might that sound like at that table? And is it kind of like in a school where we say we're going to set 10 minutes? It's
we just set a timer. Like we start with norms. We pick a norm to focus on for that meeting.
Then
go into our 6 minutes of celebrations, and it looks just like it does
at a school.
I believe in schools, a lot of our team are sharing those aha moments or those wow moments from when they've been in schools. So
sometimes if I'm picturing this in my mind, sometime the celebration might be about a student, but sometimes the celebration might be progress made at a school level. Absolutely. Or I had a teacher last week where they made this shift. And then are you still asking what do you think you did that led to that success?
Absolutely. Which is such a good question, because a lot of people are like, gee, I don't know.
I don't know.
yeah, so we do those 6 minutes, and then we move into sort of the 2 minutes of each person around table sharing kind of what's been your work the last few months. And part of that, I think, came also from feedback from our staff survey last year, that we had some feedback about communication and how can we, and a part of our reflection as a directors and assistant directors group is how can we ensure that we're communicating the best that we can between our teams, amongst our teams.
Yeah, internally.
Like communication is always a work in progress.
Yeah. And I would say since we've kind of shifted that and we've been really intentional, there's some really great work happening between, like, say, our feeder school consultants and maybe an instructional support consultant. It's pretty exciting work that's happening. And then now I see the possibility of other people joining that work that's already in progress because I didn't know it was happening. So it's increased for our staff to support. Yeah.
We were just trying to problem solve the best way to communicate, and create those cross-department connections.
Yeah.
And
I love that idea because everyone has their specific role and the specific job that they're doing in the schools, but to be able to get that time to connect with others, to say, this is the work that I'm doing, and to look for those threads, because the more connections we make and the more explicit it is what the reason why we're coming into a school, makes it incredibly powerful and supportive.
So following that update portion, then what happens in the format?
We do a key issue for about 12 minutes. So if someone has a key issue that they bring to the table, we do 2 minutes of digging in what's them explaining their key issue, what they've already tried or thinking of trying. And then we do the 10 minutes of brainstorming or strategy harvesting or whatever you want to call it. And then we do next steps and action items. So
and I would say from our last meeting, from the first time we tried this, our key issue kind of stemmed from everybody sharing, and we could see there was a common theme.
Yeah.
Nice.
So give us an example, Corey, of what a key issue might have been that's come up so far.
It was about programming and creating a scope and sequence for some of our specialized system programs.
Nice.
So we're taking a piece right now at the junior high level, and then we're going to work backwards by design, and we're going to go from high school and then back to elementary, so that kiddos leaving in grade 6, we know how to prepare them for grade 7, and then vice versa when they go to preparing for grade 10. So it's that longevity of scope and sequence for programming.
Oh, fantastic. And so really what you just described then is happening in 4 different groups as well.
The 4 different groups. And then that's something that we chatted about because we just did those school support meetings. That's what we called them last week. And then one kind of, I wondered then was, then how do we, of those 4 groups that met in isolation, how do we share sort of Cole's Notes version of what happened in each group to ensure all the groups are connecting? So that's our next thing to figure.
That's our next week's.
Yeah.
So then if that's kind of you call it your school support team, but really it would model a collaborative team meeting from a school sense.
Yeah.
With the collaborative planning then, does that, where you said it was mixed groups for the CTMs, are the collaborative planning then more role specific, or do you mix them too?
There's a mix of both depending on what they're working on. So what we've done is we did that brainstorming last week on sort of common common guidelines for collaborative planning. And then what we've done is we've asked our teams in our weekly email to sort of, we have a document where we're saying, like, what are you planning on working on collaborative planning this week? Kind of what's your plan, who's in your group, and how does it align with our department and district goals? And then sort of to help us organize ourselves best on Wednesdays. Because what we found is we would gather on those Wednesdays, the collaborative planning Wednesdays, and then we would be like, okay, what's everybody doing? And we found it hard to sort of sort the groups
Yeah, because if you weren't part of those meetings, you weren't privy to that information, but also to kind of problem solve. We want a board that's kind of visual in a space where everybody can see all the great work we're working on and who's part of those groups, and everybody's invited to join whatever group speaks to them or supports the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because everybody has something to contribute no matter what their role is in that plan.
So some of the groups might be just a group of SLPs, for example.
Right.
I know, like one of the projects we're working on in early learning, we're drawing from multidisciplinary areas. So the work is kind of fluid.
Yeah, it's fluid.
So it's still that collaborative planning piece. It's like still.
Love it. What has the response been from your team members so far? Like, have you gotten some even informal comments, feedback?
I think so. I think they feel more connected than they have in the past. And typically and it was also just because of where our office space was. All of our teams have sort of worked in their separate silos.
Yeah.
So
and some of that was just design of space too, from our conversation, Kari.
Design,
right.
Yeah.
And now we're all in a shared space.
Yeah, now we're all
nice
together. And I think they just feel like they also have a better idea of what's going on across our whole department of how we're supporting schools.
Yeah.
Also in our first Wednesday of the month whole team meetings, we've also built in a showcase spotlight time where we're having different members of our group share a bit about the work they do. Also just to learn from each other, because some of our teams, when we first got together, were like, well, I don't even know what an occupational therapist does in a school. And so it's just sharing what is our work, what are we doing currently, and just creating more of a common shared understanding.
Could I get the two of you to speak to this then? Because, I don't want to foreshadow too much on what I think would be happening, but you've got a side where you expect schools to be utilizing, and that was a key thing last year of early Wednesdays are coming. We have to make sure that time's getting used as optimally as possible to support collaborative efforts. It is not intended to be now we have time for extra marking, extra prep, whatnot. Like if we're getting that gift of time, let's use that hour. And there was some real clear criteria co-created by the administrators of how would that time get used and how would it not. What do you think the perceptions have been with as school leaders, we're expected to do this and there's some accountability, but I'm also hearing that our central services teams are holding themselves to the same level of accountability as well. Can you speak to that, of what some of that alignment, or if you've even heard any thoughts in relation to, oh my goodness, they're actually modeling what they're also expecting us to do? We'll be right back to continue this episode. Struggling to set meaningful goals that drive team success? Goal setting shouldn't feel like a checkbox exercise. It should fuel progress. The Crafting Effective Team Goals workshop guide helps teams create clear, focused, and actionable goals that build momentum and boost collective efficacy. For just $19, you'll get a ready-to-use facilitation lesson plan for a 20 to 30-minute session, a goal-setting framework to help teams craft meaningful goals, next steps to extend the learning, and much more. Your team will identify the traits of effective goals, craft actionable goals aligned with team priorities, and build a shared understanding of progress and accountability. Transform your goal setting into a process for real impact. Get your guide for $19 today by searching under the resource menu at jigsawlearning.ca. And now back to our conversation.
I do wonder about that. We definitely strongly believe that it's important that we're modeling what we've expected schools to do. Like, it's very essential. I wonder if because especially the way the fall has been a bit kind of rocky and lots of starts and stops.
For anyone listening that does not understand this, our province of Alberta went through labor action. So there was about 3 weeks of certificated teaching staff not in the building. So we had about a month of pause.
about a month of pause. And so I wonder if moving forward, we need to do as a department, we could also, I think, more explicitly share with schools
with our leadership group.
With our leadership group, what we're doing for Wednesdays. We've done it in little pockets. I know I've personally shared at the year 1 and year 2 schools for the school collaborative response teams that, you know, Kurtis, you're working with. We've shared it in little pockets,
but not big picture.
Picture. I think also because of the disruption with the labor action, we also haven't had as many leadership meetings as we typically have had. We have one tomorrow, and it's our first kind of one, our full day one that we've had this fall. So I also wonder if we have some plans to share a bit more explicitly,
maybe more intentional.
And I think more intentional, just to show schools that we're, you know, we're modeling the work, we're showing.
And maybe it would be helpful for them sometimes. Maybe they have some problems, and maybe what they see, we have some solutions, right? So maybe they have some tricky areas, and like, oh, when you hear how somebody else has worked through some of those kinks, maybe it would also be helpful for them to see our model and how we've kind of been able to do it with a staff of 60.
Absolutely.
Well, and we talk about this all the time, is when you can have that coherence throughout the system. When a school says we're struggling with this part of our collaborative structures and processes, for you to be able to respond, yeah, we struggle with that too. Here's something we've tried. Because essentially, you're almost working like a school that has a staff of 60 people in it.
Yeah.
And how do we coordinate those 60 staff members? I mean, that's no different than a school of that staff size, in a sense.
Oh, it isn't. And we have various roles within our department, similar to you would in school. You'd have office staff and educational assistants and teaching staff. We have a very similar, we have many different groups that and part of our planning is making sure that collaborative time on the Wednesdays incorporates everyone on our team, that we're not, and that everyone has a role and everyone feels like they're part of a group is really important to us. And so we would be able to share that support for sure.
Well, and really we're going to prelude before Lorna gets to a question of, you are planning to share it at our collaborative response retreat coming up in May. So if anyone's listening to this and going, oh my goodness, I need to bend Corey and Kari's ear to figure out how they're doing that, come see us in Lacombe in May.
We're looking
forward to it.
We are too.
For sure. So we would love to know, what have been some of the biggest learnings, or perhaps maybe it's adjustments, that you've had to make as you move toward that more collaborative, responsive service model? So
you started off with our first minute freebie of failing forward, and I think we've heard that already. Yeah. What other learnings or adjustments could you share?
Well, I think that part of that failing forward, if I can kind of continue on that stream, I think is being okay with trying something and then making changes. I know some of the templates and exemplars that Corey and I created, we did it during the summer, and we always we did it during the silence of summer when schools were in. And then once we got into the fall and we started using our referral form and we started using some of our templates, we were like, oh, well, this isn't working. And then also our team was like, our peer school consultants were out in the schools using this and came to us and said, no, we need to tweak and adjust this. And part of it is us being open to like, let's sit down and talk about that and what adjustments should we make, because I think until you trial something, you don't know how it's going to work. It works maybe fine in your brain, but it doesn't work in actual practice.
We have lots of things that work fine in our brain that not so much.
So I think that part of it is also just being open to, let's try it, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Our referral form, we were certain it was like a big hit, but
it was
yeah. So I think it's and just kind of getting a few referrals in, and then looking at the data and seeing, is this what we really want from schools, or is there something we're not asking? So we did make a change and we shifted. And
I think another unintended consequence is for some of our schools that aren't as far along on the spectrum of using collaborative response, we're modeling it. So we're running multidisciplinary meetings, and so we're helping principals support their staff when they're in the journey of learning it, and we're also modeling at those meetings that we're having about 6 weeks. So the common language is starting to spread throughout our division.
Absolutely. I think
that is so great. I just think that that work that you're doing, trying to model at the same time as using some structures and processes to shape that collaborative time with your teams is, I think that's just amazing.
Well, and you're exemplifying what we came to realize a number of years ago of this isn't a model, it's a mindset.
No.
Like it's thinking about how do we collaboratively respond.
Yeah.
Like you have so much expertise sitting around that table. How do we create a really sustained and focused response collaboratively that utilizes the expertise that you have?
I love the idea of fail forward too. I mean, we've been talking, you've mentioned it a number of times of, we make adjustments. We create something and we make adjustments, and in some ways there's some negative connotation to that we use the word fail and right away we go, oh, that's bad. We don't want to do that. Or, we want to prepare people for the fact that we might change things. And some people would really, really struggle with that idea. But the beauty of doing that is that we are putting forward that idea that we are actually creating together. We're doing that co-creation all along with every aspect as we move forward, because the adjustments that you're making are really about, taking feedback from people or, trying that referral and realizing that, it's not working the way that we wanted it to work. But that's a beautiful thing to do all of that big work through co-creation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I feel we have a good, better pulse, but we're more, I think, in tune of what's going on and than we have in the past.
All right. So we've got a question we want to end off here with, or a statement. And Corey, we're going to go to you first, as this is first time on podcast, because I'm also interested if Kari's response would change from when she first had to respond to this. Love for you to finish this statement, Corey. As a result of collaborative response, and we're going to add one little tweak to this.
Yeah.
As a response of collaborative response at the system level, we have seen
a greater number of students getting what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh,
absolutely love it.
Yeah.
How about for you, Kari? Now you're going to you'll have to go back and watch previous episodes to see if you said the exact same thing or if it changes every time.
Say ditto.
No, I think I echo what Corey has said in that I'm confident that the students that are being referred and our teams are going out to support, they're receiving a great level of support. To continue a more successful journey down the road. I feel confident about
and
that.
maybe to add on that to the capacity building within our school sites.
And we're building capacity in our staff. Because we definitely don't have a magic wand that we come in and wave around.
I'm interested, and I would love to know, a year or two from now, do you anticipate or aspire to that reach a place that less referrals start making its way to you because of the capacity that's been built at the school level?
Absolutely.
That's our hope.
That would be our hope and our goal.
Yeah.
Would see less referrals for sure.
And
it might not happen right away.
No.
It's usually
the great news, we
more.
have seen it in other districts where it takes time as you build the structures out within the school and across the system, but in time, when those referrals come, they are absolutely for the students who need support beyond the classroom. And we see less and less over time, not because you're having a different student population enter the buildings, but the capacity in those buildings is just so much more robust.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right supports for right students, right?
So if anyone's interested in this, are you fine if we share email addresses for people to reach out if there's questions that they have?
That's not a problem. Yeah.
That's a nice thing to just put you right on the spot live. You can't really say, no, we'd rather not.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we will make sure that we do that. And again, for anyone that's watching or listening, if you'd like to learn more, come join us in Lacombe. We'd love to see you in May. There'll be some information in the show notes about registering for that. Kari, Corey, we really appreciate you taking the time. to join us for a conversation. First off, but more importantly, thank you for the amazing work that you're doing for not just students, but for the staff and communities that are there to support them. We yeah, it always warms us when we
It does.
hear of great people doing great work because it's going to make a difference for kids.
And thank you for your willingness to share your story, because there are so many people who are listening and will be excited about the possibilities that you guys are currently exploring. So that's really exciting. Thank you for that.
I love conversations with the team at Elk Island Public, whether that's the school or the system level. And again, as we noted, check out the podcast notes, as we have a podcast where the system leaders talk about how they set up that early dismissal Wednesday, some learning that they did, how they set that up. And then we've also had a conversation with Kari when she was principal at Woodbridge Farms School, talking about her reflections there. But they started us off with this idea of learning or failing forward. And we've talked about this over and over again. And I love to hear it repeated from their experience too, that you have to be comfortable getting something started, putting it in place, and then recognizing this is going to shift. It's going to change as we learn, and clearly communicating that out to everyone that we're going to co-create as we go, but we're going to get started. Let's start moving forward. And if we fail, no problem. We'll adjust. Again, ready, fire, aim.
The important part of that is remembering that you need to be explicit and intentional about the fact that, you know, things might change as we go along. And if people know that, then they're more willing to take the steps forward, understanding that we're going to change it based on feedback from you, or feedback in regards to the situation that's happening. But it is about being responsive.
Yeah, absolutely. And going to that responsive thing, I keep reflecting back to conversations, and it wasn't one, it was multiple for you and I when we were working with schools, with districts, with different teams, and struggling with that idea that I don't think this is a model anymore. Like when people start to describe it's how they're thinking about responding. It's how they're organizing themselves. We reach that place of, I don't think this is CRM, i.e. collaborative response model. It's really just collaborative response. It's a way of thinking. And both Kari and Corey exemplify that of, it's going to look different in its approach at our level, but the ethos of how we're collaboratively responding still remains. We're still setting up consistent, predictable, clear structures and processes for how we work together. We honor the collective expertise within the group, and we're really building out systems for, again, thinking about this as how we collaboratively respond to the needs that we're encountering.
Well, and a great example of that is that it doesn't only apply to one specific circumstance. So, of course, collaborative response was originally designed in a school, and the idea was we do these things to support the needs of students. At a school level,
support kids.
But it is much, much more than a program or a model, because we can actually take those same concepts of how do we collaboratively respond to the needs of our schools, to the needs of our students who have extensive requirements for support, and we need external people to come on board. But we can use the same structures and processes in so many circumstances. And we have seen it applied to, that idea of principals surfacing key issues that are happening in their schools and accessing the expertise of other principals across their division. And we've seen it with learning support teachers coming together and identifying key issues that they have in their role and accessing the expertise of their colleagues. It is so impactful. It's about creating the opportunity to collaborate to benefit everybody in the room.
But with intentionally designed structures, processes that are aligned. And I heard it clearly communicated from Corey and Kari there that the enhanced communication has been a significant byproduct of the work. And we see this all the time of even schools that start and say, we're just talking more. We're communicating more. And in a way that is solutions focused for us, that the communication is just becoming stronger and stronger and stronger as we've been modeling and practicing. And even as Kari noted, going back to that idea of we're all professionals, aren't we? Don't we all know what the norms are? No, let's clearly articulate them, because that's going to enhance our communication over time.
Yeah, one of the other things that I think has the potential of being really impactful in Elk Island is that when I was working with a regional collaborative service delivery in a role from the division, then one of the things that came up consistently from service providers, from the OTs, SLPs, was constantly the need and desire to support universal practice in a classroom. But the challenge of how do I get in to support a teacher in their classroom? How do I get the time to be able to work with them so that they understand that some of these strategies I'm suggesting can be great for everyone in that universal design, but we're doing it specifically to meet the needs of certain students who are more targeted. But I think that the way that Kari and Corey are really looking at creating that collaborative time for all of their service providers creates so much potential for how do we provide universal supports from that level of expertise that is going to impact so many students.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, we'd love once again to thank Corey and Kari for taking the time, joining the podcast and sharing the great work that's happening. Check out the show notes if you're looking to connect further with them or to see some of those past podcasts. So we always end off with 2 requests. First, please join or share our mailing list. That's at jlinsiders.com. On there, we have weekly content, resources that we know you'll find valuable.
Yeah, and second, please like, share, review, or subscribe to help ensure someone else who needs to hear what we've discussed has a greater chance to find it.
As always, please reach out at questions@jigsawlearning.ca if you have a question, a future topic that you'd love to discuss, or if you'd just like to connect. We'd love to hear from you. So as always, we are wishing you all the best as you lead collaborative response in your own organization.
See you soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.